Yesterday, they couldn't stop talking to you. Your phone kept lighting up. Every notification made you smile. Every conversation felt effortless. But today, your messages feel shorter. Their replies take longer. The excitement is gone. And without realizing it, you start asking yourself one dangerous question. What did I do wrong? But what if? The answer has nothing to do with what you did. What if people don't lose interest the way you think they do? Today, you're about to discover a psychological truth that could completely change the way you see every relationship in your life. Here's something strange. People rarely notice the exact moment someone begins losing interest. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens. One unanswered message, one canceled plan, one shorter conversation at a time. Like watching the sunset. You don't see the exact second daylight disappears. But eventually, everything feels darker. The scariest part? Most people never realize it's happening until it's already too late. When someone becomes distant, your brain immediately searches for an explanation. Maybe I talked too much. Maybe I wasn't interesting enough. Maybe they found someone better. Notice something? Every explanation points back at you, because your brain believes finding a reason feels safer than accepting uncertainty, even if that reason is completely false. In the beginning, everything feels exciting. Every message is new. Every conversation feels unpredictable. Your brain releases dopamine, the chemical that loves novelty. But over time, novelty naturally fades. That doesn't automatically mean love disappears, or friendship ends. Sometimes, the excitement changes into comfort, but many people mistake comfort for losing interest, and that misunderstanding has ended countless relationships. But here's where everything changes. Because sometimes, people really do lose interest, and the reason has almost nothing to do with your looks, your personality, or your messages. Instead, it's controlled by one hidden psychological principle that influences every human relationship. Once you understand it, you'll never chase someone's attention the same way again. And that's exactly what we're uncovering. The hidden principle is called hedonic adaptation. It sounds complicated, but you've experienced it your entire life. Think about your favorite song. The first time you heard it, you played it over and over again. Months later, it became just another song. Not because the song got worse, but because your brain got used to it. The human brain is designed to adapt to excitement, to success, to people, and sometimes that adaptation is mistaken for losing interest. When you first meet someone, everything feels exciting. Every conversation reveals something new. Every message feels important. But after weeks, or months, there are fewer surprises. The relationship becomes familiar. Here's the mistake most people make. They think less excitement means less love. But psychology tells us something different. Familiarity isn't the enemy. Taking someone for granted is. Those two things look similar, but they lead to completely different outcomes. Now let's talk about something modern psychology rarely ignores. Attention has become one of the most valuable resources on Earth. Every app, every notification, every short video is competing for the same thing: your attention. So when someone seems less interested, it isn't always because they value you less. Sometimes, their attention is simply being pulled in 100 different directions. In today's world, distraction often looks exactly like disinterest. Here's the twist. The people who constantly chase attention often receive less of it. Why? Because desperation changes behavior. You text more. You over-explain. You seek constant reassurance. And without realizing it, you create pressure. Real connection grows through curiosity, not through constant chasing. Sometimes, the fastest way to lose someone's interest is trying too hard to keep it. But what if people don't lose interest because of you, or because of them? What if every relationship follows a hidden psychological cycle that almost nobody notices? A cycle that explains why some friendships last decades, while others disappear within months. Once you see this pattern, you'll start recognizing it everywhere. And in the next chapter, we'll reveal the cycle that silently shapes almost every human relationship. Have you ever noticed? Some people stay in your life for years, while others disappear after just a few months. At first, it feels random, but psychology says it's not. Most relationships silently move through 4 stages: curiosity, connection, comfort, and then one of 2 paths. Either both people continue growing together, or one person stops investing. The scary part? Most people never notice the moment the relationship enters that final stage. By the time they do, it's already falling apart. Think about your own life. Maybe you had a friend who once called you every single day. Now, weeks pass without a single conversation. Or maybe someone who couldn't wait to meet you now keeps saying, "I'm busy." Most people immediately think they've changed. But sometimes, nothing changed overnight. Tiny moments slowly piled up. Small disappointments, less effort, less curiosity, until one day, the connection simply wasn't the same anymore. Relationships rarely break in one moment. They slowly fade, one unnoticed moment at a time. But here's the twist. What if people didn't lose interest because you became less valuable? What if they simply stopped discovering something new about you? Our brains naturally crave growth. New ideas, new experiences, new conversations. When every interaction becomes predictable, curiosity begins to disappear. The problem isn't becoming familiar. The problem is stopping your own growth. And when growth stops, interest often follows. Ask yourself something. When was the last time you surprised yourself? Not someone else. Yourself. Because people are naturally drawn to those who continue evolving, learning new skills, changing perspectives, growing emotionally. Curiosity isn't just about discovering other people. It's about becoming someone worth discovering again. And that's a choice you make every single day. So, does this mean every relationship is destined to fade? Not at all. In fact, some people stay deeply connected for decades. Why? Because they understand one psychological habit that keeps relationships alive, even after the excitement disappears. And once you discover it, you'll never look at human connection the same way again. But before we reveal that, there's one uncomfortable truth almost nobody wants to hear. Here's the hardest truth. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people are chapters, not the entire story. But when they leave, your brain keeps asking, how do I get them back? Maybe that's the wrong question. The better question is, why am I trying so hard to keep someone who no longer wants to stay? Sometimes, accepting reality hurts less than fighting it forever. Here's the paradox. The more your happiness depends on keeping one person interested, the more anxious you become, and anxiety quietly changes your behavior. You overthink, you over-explain, you stop being yourself. Ironically, the fear of losing someone can slowly become the reason you push them away. Real confidence doesn't chase attention. It creates peace. Think about the people you truly admire. Most of them aren't constantly asking for attention. They have something else. Purpose. People who keep growing, keep discovering new versions of themselves. And that's what makes them interesting. The goal isn't to become someone everyone likes. The goal is to become someone you never stop becoming. Growth is magnetic, not because it impresses others, but because it transforms you. So let me ask you something. If someone suddenly lost interest in you today, what would you do? Would you spend months trying to become enough for them? Or would you become someone you are proud of, even if nobody is watching? Because maybe the greatest relationship you'll ever build isn't with another person, it's with yourself. And that relationship determines every other relationship you'll ever have. Today, you discovered why people lose interest. And hopefully, you realized something even more important. You cannot force curiosity. You cannot force attention. And you cannot force someone to choose you, but you can choose to keep growing, to keep learning, to keep becoming a person who never stops evolving. Because people may lose interest, but your purpose should never lose direction. If this video changed the way you see relationships, subscribe to Human Paradox for more psychology and thought experiments. But here's one final question. What hurts more, someone losing interest, or realizing they've already replaced you? That's exactly what we'll uncover in the next episode of Human Paradox.